Welcome back.
Thank you.
I believe we're live.
Wonderful. Good evening, it's 6:40 p.m. on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and this is the work session for the Greenburgh Central School District Board of Education. I'm now going to call the meeting to order. If everyone could please stand and take the pledge of allegiance. The flag is here to be raised. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next, we have the introduction of new hires, and we did not have any new hires, right, between the last meeting and now? No? Okay. I'm going to move to that item. Next item, agenda B2, policy review. I'm going to pass this over, there's a whole long list. I'm going to pass this over to Trustee Valen. I'll pick out one at a time. Policy 3160. You want to say something about that?
Okay, so these are all for Board of Education review before they're made available for public presentation at the regular meeting in a couple of weeks. They would then, unless other changes need to be referred back to admin or legal, would be up for board approval at the regular meeting in April. So that's the timeline we're working on.
3160.
3160 is the naming of district facilities. When you look at all of these policies, the initial changes were in red. Additional changes that came through either the Governance and Policy Committee or another committee would be in blue, and any third changes would be in a different color. So you'll see our naming of district facilities. After the last time we discussed this, we added back in the naming of a facility may honor a living or deceased individual, and we confirmed that the recommendation flow would go through the building principals. I know last time the board went back and forth on the honoring a living or non-living person, but this is what the Governance and Policy Committee recommended in the end, but open for discussion. If anyone wants to do that again, otherwise we'll move on to the next one.
I'm happy. Thank you for making those changes.
5360 is,
Yes, 5360 is facilities. Been 5630, sorry, has been renamed from facilities planning, inspection operation, facilities planning to facilities, inspection, operation, and maintenance. There are a large number of changes you will see here. A lot of it deals with the legal requirements of the facilities committee. The part that you see in blue is a section that had been struck and that the Governance and Policy Committee did recommend be reinstated. Any comments, or I don't know if David Warner wants to have the Facilities and Finance Facilities Committee review this on Thursday?
I will certainly show it to them.
Okay.
I would say, in terms of questions I have right now, I'd say at the bottom of page 3, the comprehensive long-range plan, at the very bottom of the page. So you're telling me what needs to be in the plan, and one of them, a couple of things are priority of need of maintenance, repair, and modernization of existing facilities, including consideration of the obsolescence and retirement of certain facilities, and the provision of additional facilities. So that means any added buildings, any subtracted buildings need to be in the 5-year plan. Is that pretty much what that says? And obsolescence means,
For example, the Morton House.
right, so is it that the facility is in bad shape? That's one definition of obsolescence. The thing is in such bad shape that it would be cheaper to build a new one. Or is it the uses of this, the modern standards for usage are not suitable for this thing anymore? Is that the standard for obsolescence?
I don't know, that could be a discussion. In fact, to me, the latter part would be more of a repurposing, possibly, than obsolescence in and of itself. But that's one person's opinion. I don't know if legal would have anything to add to the definition of obsolescence in this sense.
No, I think it can mean both of those things.
Great. Okay. I think, yeah, that's it.
Okay. 5710.
5710, school bus safety scheduling and routing. Now, they're gonna, there's a number of policies that have to do with buses. Some of them, there's one that has been absorbed into another,
So this is the,
which of course now is where I have to use my little
yeah,
paper trail.
5710 is to be deleted.
So, thank you. So this has been absorbed into 5720 and 5730, I believe. So this is to be deleted.
She has that on the thing. So 5720 is absorbed into 5730 is a new policy.
Then 57, oh,
So 5720, transportation of students.
sure. So along about page 3,
5720 you're on?
I'm on 5720.
Okay.
So the bottom of page 3, you've got transportation to and from before and after school childcare locations. And under it, there is an item D, towards the bottom of the page, it says eligibility for transportation shall be limited to pre-kindergarten in district through grade 12. The child care provider's location must meet the same mileage requirements established for students. My question is, if you're very handicapped and you're special needs and you're here till you're 21, you're not graded anymore, but say you're like 20 years old or something, does that mean that if you go to an institution after school, that we don't provide transportation for it anymore?
It shouldn't mean that.
They should get, yeah.
So should the wording be changed instead of through grade 12 to
Through-
through grade 12 plus, or through
Through the
the
end
end
of
of
their
their school?
Yeah, district education. And it's not 21 anymore, it's 22, right, Dr. Macaluso, for now? And then they're gonna put it back down to 21?
Through the end
For
of the,
special ed.
For special
I thought it was
education.
like the day before.
So they had moved it because of COVID, they moved it up to 23, and then it went back down.
Well, it had to do, initially it had to do with compensatory education.
Right.
Making up for education.
Mm-hmm,
Then it was just extended,
mm-hmm.
that you can, until
Is it
the end of
22
the
now?
year, which you turn 22.
22, right. And then there's the question of what is the
Not
end of
the end
the
of the
year?
year.
There's the end of the school year, the end of the calendar year.
Actually,
right?
until you turn 22.
Mhm.
so with regard to section D, can we change that part to read through the end of legally required public education?
Or
Or
some
something
other-
similar?
Some other fancy way to write it?
Would you be enrolled in the district for anything other than that? Like, would it just be district enrollment?
For this, yeah.
Well, I don't know how you count out of district placements, so. But as far as terminology,
Well, we're still paying for them.
right.
So are they enrolled in
So
the
that's
district?
a, that's
Out of
a,
district?
that's a legal question. Is it through enrollment or through the end of the?
What's the best way to write that?
I'll let you back.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on 5720? Trustee, yes?
Just that, when you look at D, look at E also, because E talks about that transportation being provided for children who attend school in the district.
Yeah.
So they may be able to go together.
Even if they're out of district?
But there's a section for special needs, right after it.
Does it contradict that section?
This is all about, this is the section of before and after school childcare. Right?
Right, it's not generic transportation.
Right.
Does special education address before and after school childcare? Or do we need to even do a line that says is superseded by special education, or, you know,
It's prior to, it's being before.
Okay, so legal will review those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just
So
gonna
legal
note-
has not seen this, or?
They'll review the changes that were
The
just
changes,
suggested
okay.
now. I'm just gonna note that on the last page, 5 of 5, the part in blue is the part of the original policy 5730 titled transportation drop-off that's been
Right.
added and included here. Because now we're gonna move to new policy, new version of policy 5730, which will be completely revamped, now that we've moved that section under 5720, to be school bus safety. And you'll see, everything there.
And I have one question there,
Yep,
and that is 5730, you've got this section at the very beginning, use of portable electronic devices prohibited. It says a school bus driver can't sit there and play on his computer, on his phone or whatever while driving the bus, as long as the engine's running. You can't do that. My question is, what if I were driving to game in Dutchess County, and I had not been there before, and I put something up that would give me, give me directions to get there? Is that prohibited by this?
so
Do they have?
it can't be handhelds.
Right.
I got a ticket for that, because I was on the
Right,
GPS
can't
while
be
I'm
handheld.
driving, you can't have it in your
Okay,
hand.
using means holding a portable electronic
You
device.
can't be holding it, it needs to be.
So if you're not holding it, it's okay?
You can have
But does that
those-
mean I could play Tetris as long as it's on the dashboard?
Is there even what sort of technology is built into the buses as far as
I think everything is built
navigation?
with the phone
They have
and
navigation, that's a
safely
great question.
be inserted into it. I don't.
But it does say mobile telephone, handheld, or hands-free
Oh.
specifically.
Maybe
Or
they need
hands-free,
to,
you're right.
maybe they need to install one of those things that you put your phone in so you can see it.
But it's still hands-free then.
It's
Yeah,
hands-free, right?
It makes a lot of sense that
They would
you will
need
need
that.
GPS sometimes when you're
Of course.
driving.
I would rather the bus drivers.
Right.
have
So they would
Take
have
the risk of
to.
Okay, so we need to insert an
We
allow
should
exception.
Yeah.
For
exception
GPS.
unless
How do you
you
write
use
that?
navigation
GPS.
systems. So should we find out what is currently used or just have that exception written into it somehow?
We need
Yeah.
to know how it's done,
Yeah.
and then we can write it properly.
So we can-
Does Frank give them the,
I'm gonna ask.
directions?
I'm gonna ask.
Well, it's not like a written paper, I'm sure, they're not like reading, right? It has to be.
They have routes and where to go and turn and go
Right,
up
and they
and down, so
practice,
those are like
they
directions.
practice their normal routes before there are any kids
Before
on the
you-
bus, right?
But when it's something like Dutchess County, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good question.
Okay.
Yes, just.
In the same paragraph or same section about portable electronic devices, the very first sentence, it's not the first sentence. Does this pertain only to bus drivers or does it pertain to students on buses also? Because it doesn't seem, the wording doesn't exclude anyone.
You mean with the phone?
Yes.
Oh. What's the paragraph before, what's it
The use
addressing?
of portable electronic devices by a school bus driver, at times the vehicle is in operation on the roadway, poses a potential safety risk.
But
All
that's
school
below.
bus drivers are
But yeah,
prohibited from using
the
portable
first
electronic
paragraph.
Yeah, but that's
All
below.
buses will be observed by drivers,
Yeah.
students, and school personnel. Which means meeting students.
All state laws and regulations.
And then the first thing we talk about is use of portable electronic devices
But this-
prohibited.
There's no state law that says use of
Can't,
personal devices are
I think it says
prohibited
the
by
student can't sit in the
rights.
back of the bus and play with it.
Anyone who's riding in a car, bus, or
Right.
anywhere doesn't have a state law prohibiting them from using the device.
No. No, but then the next section is use of portable electronic devices is prohibited, but it doesn't say until below bullet C that that's bus drivers, so could it be
Right.
misinterpreted that that means anyone on the bus?
She's saying why would the students, the school personnel here as well? If they're not restricted from.
So just put in a line here for drivers. Because it must be later on they deal with school personnel and students, correct?
And I assume monitors, like,
Right,
yeah,
everyone,
monitors.
or
and
drivers.
that too.
Drivers and monitors?
No, I want.
No,
monitors
because the
have
monitor
access
might
to
be able to
phones.
say, oh, we've got.
I know a monitor who's been very explicitly told.
This kid
that
got off the
it's
bus
not
today.
that they have their phone, like, on at all.
Maybe they're not watching.
I think that's the essence behind it, whether that
Yeah.
is the function
Right.
of how it plays out, I don't know.
Okay, all right, so we'll look at that. Let's, yeah,
Okay.
look at
So,
adding a line in
Just
that
as far
before
as
the next
timing,
meeting.
if the ones that we're getting more information on, we have a governance and policy committee meeting on March 11th before our regular session. If we could get those answers by March 11th, that would be ideal.
Sure. Good. Okay,
What?
50, yes? No, it's fine.
It's okay.
It's okay.
The very last section, suspension of bus privileges, do we have a cross-reference to what the, it says if a student violates bus rules, do we have a cross-reference to the actual bus rules somewhere?
But I don't have a bus rules.
They're in the code of
That's in the
conduct.
In the code of conduct.
So let's put that, let's say,
Code of conduct.
or the code of conduct.
Cross-reference added here.
Right, that way it's clear.
And you
Right
want that,
catch.
sorry, which sentence we're going to use with the, which sentence?
Last.
Where would that go?
Last.
Right here,
Last,
this
uh,
is-
section,
Where would we add as per the code of conduct? With the
it's the second sentence in the last section.
plus rules and foundations.
Pursuant by
Bus
bus
rules,
rules as found in the code of conduct.
Yeah.
Found in code of
And code of, which we do.
We need to, yeah.
conduct.
Okay,
And then you're gonna put code of conduct at the bottom as a reference.
as a reference, yeah, cross-reference. Any other questions for 5730, the new one? Great catch, trustee Long. And we're gonna hit these on the 11th if we need to.
All right, 5731. These on the papers, idling school buses on school grounds.
We talked about that already.
Again, we'll just do some generic provisions. No comments, moving on.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Which one?
The exceptions seem to, I get it, the exceptions, to maintain appropriate temperature for passenger comfort. That's so subjective. I mean, if anyone were to say, well, you need to shut your bus off and it's 40 degrees, I don't know, it's so subjective. To me, that's a big old hole. It's just an opinion.
On the other hand, if it's 15 degrees,
Right.
Sure.
so
But,
then you have.
or if someone's cold and it's
I mean, do
60
you wanna-
degrees, is that, I left the bus running, when you're standing next to those buses
I
and
think
that
it's based on the
exhaust is-
driver's judgment.
Well, that's what I mean, it's,
It's subjective to the driver. If you have a hot driver,
which
then
makes
yeah,
the, I know, which makes the policy kind of subjective, so it's just my thought, if anyone were to
You
question.
also have to remember some of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Macaluso, some of the students' IEPs require like air conditioning.
Sure.
So they would have to keep the bus running.
Or if it's hot. Yeah, it's just, to me, I get this, but then I wonder about the policy in general. I mean, are the buses just gonna idle when it's hot and idle when it's cold? And it's either hot or it's cold here, so they're just gonna idle all the time? That's my question about this. It has a subjective element to it that kind of makes it redundant in my, or irrelevant.
All right, do you want to pull this one and discuss it a little further, or should we leave out there and hit it on the 11th if we need to?
Not if I'm the only one that thinks it's,
I mean, what would be a suggested change? Just
What's
strike
the
it
point?
altogether,
or
or?
what's the point of the policy?
We don't want
You're
excessive
saying,
idling.
no, I mean, do you want to
Is
add a
it-
time limit? I'm trying to figure out what would be the ask, if we pulled it, what would be a possible proposal?
Then you have to come up with a bunch of standards.
Yes,
You're thinking
Yeah.
of all
Police
those other
tax,
things.
Like a temperature range and it's the presence of special ed students on the bus.
It just seems kind of overkill. If you created all kinds of rules around it, and then this temperature and that temperature, and this student or that student, it just, I'm
Those
just
are all
kind of of
limited,
the
you can leave
opinion
it or you
that,
can make a bunch of
All right,
standards.
so go ahead, trustee, your whole.
Is there anywhere this idea could go somewhere else? Like in some kind of environmental piece or fuel saving provisions or something where like maybe instead of it being its own policy, just the concept of not idling when unnecessary goes somewhere else as a line as opposed to a whole policy? Where, I don't know, but it just streamline it a little. I understand your point, and every solution I can come up with involves several other pieces.
complications,
Yes. If you say required, then what does required mean? Then it, yeah. So is there another place we could
So
go?
let's deal with it in the poll, and we're gonna deal with it in the poll and decide if it's necessary or not.
So it's gotta be, that's the concern.
Yes.
Okay.
No, the whole, she said the whole policy. We're talking about policy.
It's required by ed law.
Yeah.
Okay.
The idling is a state law, I don't know if it's
But it
just
has
ed
to be
law,
its
but there's a,
own policy, or it can be mentioned somewhere else.
but moving it from one place to another, it's either vague here or vague elsewhere, the point is,
And this is what's
you want
recommended by
something concrete, so.
everyone BOCES.
Okay, so we're
Does
gonna-
policy review.
Yeah, so we'll deal with it on the 11th, decide what we're gonna do.
So we're gonna hold on with that one.
5740.
740, qualifications of bus drivers. Again, you see the suggestions by everyone BOCES. Whoops.
Any comments, concerns? Next is 6190, updated.
Workplace.
Okay, this is the new workplace violence prevention policy. Since it was reviewed in governance a week or so ago, a new version came in, which is why you now see green, that's the latest changes. So,
Page 4 of 8, workplace violence prevention coordinator. The district has designated, you say, the chief emergency officer to serve as its workplace violence prevention coordinator.
Okay.
Because we looked around and couldn't find
But
the
that-
other title listed here as something that we did in our annual appointments, but we do have chief emergency
but
officer.
we do have a district school safety committee.
Coordinator.
But my title is Chief Emergency Officer.
Gotcha.
So we should put that.
So just fix that.
Thought I'd seen.
The district has designated the chief emergency officer to serve as its workplace violence prevention coordinator.
Okay. Same
Good.
phone number.
All right, anything else in this new policy? We trying to follow what we want to do? No,
Just a
70,
second.
oh, okay.
7, prevention methods on page 7. Using drop safes or other methods to minimize cash on hand and posting signs stating that limited cash is on hand. Workplace risk evaluation, developing workplace violence prevention program. So you have some boilerplate and it's generic and most businesses have cash. And we don't do much with cash. So I'm looking at this and saying, maybe this is not something we need in this particular policy. What do other people think?
I think we do need something, some wording like this, because there is cash happening for field trips and things like that. And I know in the past, buildings have kept things in vaults or whatever. I think you do
And
need
it's
to have
comes
some
violence.
wording of
Okay.
So you
All right,
have a
fair enough.
sign.
in here.
No, wording for securing cash is different than what you talked about the sign. Do we need to have a sign saying
This
limited
is not
cash?
a sign, though. This is using drop safes to or
Yeah,
amend
Right,
it.
and then
That's
there's
a
also
sign.
a sign
Didn't
stating
you
that
just
limited
say
cash is on hand.
Number 4.
Posting signs.
Okay, well, I'm talking about number 4. I don't know, do we need to have that? Should we have,
I'd strike
Yeah.
number 4.
Okay,
I agree with striking
Yeah.
number 4.
doesn't make sense.
okay.
Okay. 7316.
16 is the, oh, good, okay, I don't have a ton, I wasn't, student use of personal technology. This was reviewed in both the technology committee and in governance and policy.
Was it reviewed in CEC as well recently, when you talked about AI at all?
We didn't
No?
talk specifically about
The policy. Okay.
I'm going to draw the board's attention to the bottom of the first page under non-instructional uses. During governance and policy, we alluded to the fact that we're kind of in flux right now because we don't have the completed new version of the code of conduct, and this is something that we've been going back and forth on as far as use of personal technology during non-instructional time.
Oh,
So the way this is worded right now,
I think it's important to talk with Gabby too about this. Gabby, sorry. Our student ex officio member, because as we've been doing this policy, we haven't had student input.
so let's give her a second to read while I just continue the thought. So right now, I think this wording reflects what is happening at, well, not exactly reflecting what is happening at the middle high school. But anyway, we thought the board would want to talk about this. And if you do have a comment, just, yeah, later, when you get a chance to read it.
So what I remember is that, at the very beginning of the year, the welcome package kind of said, don't bring your phone to school, no phones, no phones. And then we kind of said, you know, it might be that you come to school and you have to get picked up after school or something, and you need your phone. So it's like, yeah, leave your phone in your locker, or leave your phone in your backpack, or whatever you need to do, but don't use it during instructional time, right? But the
It was
policy that
during the
was,
day.
yeah, but the policy said, oh, you can use it between class periods, which is not what the high school rules.
Non-instructional time.
Right, so we tweaked it to match that, and now you're saying, so what? Go
I'm
ahead.
saying there may or may not be discrepancy between where we're going with the code of conduct and what is or is not happening at the high school, and what the board thinks is a priority, and anytime you want to speak up, just raise your hand. What works and what doesn't work. So,
How do the students feel?
I'll be totally honest.
just put on the spot.
I think no technology outside of school hours is a bit unrealistic. Kids are going to use it during peak period, but that's especially when they have to. Just I know for like seniors, like we were on our computers a lot, but not just like watching movies or something. Like in the beginning, you're doing combat stuff, so it's like we had to be on our computers when we were doing the lunch, so that kind of interferes with that.
And I believe the high school proposal was for seniors to have it, but we looked at the fact that maybe that was unrealistic, and then other kids would say, or use the senior's phone or something. But yes, seniors have a lot of need with applications, calling schools, talking to schools, scholarships, all types of stuff to register for, and
Excuse me. I'm coming from Chester Market, that's the.
Awesome.
Yep, you can have a seat over here.
give us a few more minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So where did we settle on this? The board was a little split. I know we talked about even using it for instructional purposes, using your personal technology at times as well. So we were a little split on it. We were looking at the code of conduct. Does anyone remember where we left off?
Right now, they're not supposed to be out during the day.
Out.
During school hours.
School hours.
So after 2:45 is good.
Yeah.
That's what we settled on in September. And that's what's, the code of conduct is still being revised, but that's what's in the code of conduct. So that was placed in the code of conduct for this year, but
I should add, Gabby, that you may not be aware of, is that part of the issue, I think, in the people that didn't want it at all, was that it was being misused. So kids were being filmed without permission, teachers were being filmed, people were taking things in the bathroom, and filming, and so like there's no real way to control for that if there's just phones out, even in free periods, because you can take it to the bathroom and whatever. So that's also part of the need for the restriction.
And then limiting it to seniors only, then it gets tricky, because not all staff knows every student and knows who is a senior and who isn't, so how do you police that fairly? It's
What if
just,
you're,
there's no
you're
really good
taking
answer
history
here.
course, or you fall somewhere in the middle of credit wise, so you're not defined the same way as any other senior.
So where do we leave it?
Do we leave the policy as is, and then as continued discussion when we get to the code of conduct and adjust the policy if needed? Do we adjust the policy to match what we're currently doing, which would mean changing this phrase to be during non-school hours? Any other thoughts from the board?
I don't know if it makes sense, to your point, to put a policy in that we realistically know won't happen. Like, I don't know if there's a point in doing that. I think I lean on the side of finishing the code of conduct and making sure that that makes sense, and then going back instead of having like floater policies that kind of are ambiguous. But I also think there's a lot more creativity now about how to address some of these issues, whether it's like a lock system that each individual still has their phone and needs to be unlocked, or a copy. So I don't know really what the answer is. I don't think there is necessarily a good answer or a right answer, but I think there's more out there now that maybe we need to look at before finalizing the policy.
I'll also say theoretically, and correct me if I'm wrong, policies are umbrellas, and you can always get more narrow at a building level when it comes to specific rules. Maybe I'm wrong. So there is room to move forward and adjust later, because it might be that something is appropriate at one building and not the other, as far as non-instructional time might be defined as the whole school day, or it might be defined as just the one.
So the other way around it is to completely fuzz it up and go to non-instructional uses and say non-instructional uses are limited as per the code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're done, and it's not wrong,
And we fix it.
but you have to, but that means you gotta get on that code of conduct and make it like it should be.
Great suggestion. Okay, let's keep going. Yes?
Just the instructional uses, it explicitly says in here that personal technology used by students is permitted during the school day for educational purposes and/or in approved locations only. Is that in contradiction? I mean, it's,
Instructional, this is non-instructional.
yes. But right,
I'm saying personal technology is.
personal technology, we provide
Personal technology.
We provide devices to them that
For
are school
instructional
issued
use.
for instructional use.
So, can the devices get to all the websites? This is a Luke question, I guess. I don't know. Can the devices that are given to the students get to all websites and all periodicals?
Personal technology.
Do you mean, there's a firewall,
Right.
so,
So the answer is, Chromebook that the students are given may or may not be able to get to certain websites.
exactly.
So
Yes,
if-
but a teacher,
It says here the teacher will indicate when they can, when it's acceptable to pull them out and use them.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not a real big fan of that first sentence, just because it says is permitted during the school
Because
day.
theoretically, a personal technology will access more things
right,
than what we want them to access on a district device, which should have everything they need during the
but
instructional time.
sometimes teachers, not prescribe, what's the word, assign stuff that are on websites, or they have to do research and get into certain websites in certain areas that the Chromebook, for example, cannot.
I would just say that this sets up lines of battle.
Loophole.
Yeah, it sets up lines of battle. Oh, I was using it for instructional
The
purposes.
sentence you don't like is personal technology used by students is permitted during the school day for educational purposes.
I'm not sure what the issue is though, because isn't there, and I'm not reading it, but I feel like I heard you say, within the scope of the teachers.
In
at
the
a
next
allotted
sentence.
times. Right, so if it's
Yes.
at allotted times and within the scope of what the teacher said, then how is it an
How's
issue?
it bad?
Because, it's just because it says is permitted during the school day, and we're talking about not having personal devices, because we paid to give them devices to do their work.
But those are personal devices.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they Chromebooks that the school
Yes.
district pays for personal
School
devices?
Yes.
They're
No,
district
they're district
devices.
devices.
They're not personal
Oh, so you wanna change
devices.
the definition?
Okay, we're gonna table it, we're gonna move on. We
This
gotta,
is
we gotta,
tabled.
go
I think if
And
we
it
don't want
won't
phones out,
be
yeah.
on
the next one, okay.
Personal technology includes all existing emergency
Next, we
technology.
have 8320,
There's nothing there that makes a differentiation between the Chromebooks and anything else. It's just by big deal with it.
So it's not in our folder.
trustee Warner, we're moving on, what's 8320, does anyone have a computer up? I can't see.
Not in the folder. And textbooks, library materials, and other
Oh, he
instructional
went on
materials.
about that one.
Okay, I'm going to say,
You wanna table that one?
let's table that, hold on, 8320.
That one's detailed.
Where's my-
Yes, guys.
8320, and there's a related one, we can discuss at the same time. So we'll table 8320.
And then next we have 8460, which is field trips.
Let's do field trips. Again, okay, so in this blue section that was discussed at the Governance and Policy Committee, a lot of that is actually the same wording as before. Let me see if I can identify the differences. Letters to the Board of Ed, prior to the trip is required, noting Trip information, student for student chaperones attending, that's the same. Okay, special trips such as overnight or excursions greater than 150 miles require special approval by the superintendent and the board, minimum of 30 days before, that's the same. Additionally, the trip may not occur unless an approved trip form is obtained with the board, same. The approved trip form must be brought back to the building principal, for the signature present the final step, that's the same. This is a designated, that's the same. An exception to third day rule, that's the same. Okay, so all this is the same as the previous edit, except we had wanted to add in here,
We had a note at the bottom that you wanted us to look at, when we talked about the question about this, because it is pretty much the same, was should the letter include, where this language is.
right, so we wanted to split a separate paragraph where it begins special trips. So, Mr. Graham, Jessica, if you could take a note there. The sentence that starts special trips, let's have a new paragraph there. And then right after what Dr. Iverson is referencing, that the sentence, the first blue sentence, a letter to the board is required.
Right.
Noting the trip information, students participating, chaperones attending, we had wanted to add a little bit more detail there, which was where, when, how many in the student cohort, and the number of chaperones. So it's a lot of the same information, and I wrote something down here, which
Where is the special trips? I'm sorry.
It's the second
second
blue. Yeah.
sentence. And the transportation type. The type of transportation.
So special trips, so that should be in a separate section,
Separate paragraph.
separate paragraph.
Because it's a lot of,
The second paragraph goes to where?
Just
All
in
the whole
there.
thing, the
Just
whole
return.
thing.
Just like a return.
No, I know, but it includes all the rest of the.
yeah, there's gonna be another
Got it.
paragraph in there somewhere.
All right.
Yeah, you found another one? So what's important to note, so first of all, I told governance policy, I'm telling all of you, the seniors are gonna be going on a trip this year, even though we have not yet received our letter. It's happening. Even though we have not yet received our letter or any information, and this has happened before as well. And that will probably be more than 150 miles or something, but it will be overnight as usual. They usually do Florida, I think last year they did Puerto Rico, this year they're trying to do somewhere in Pennsylvania. So that will be coming, but what we found out and uncovered in GovPol is that any trip, so a trip to Greenburgh Nature Center, we're supposed to get a letter to the board about that, even though it's not overnight and it's not 150 miles, explaining to us where our students are. And we always try to think and err on the side of caution, you know, God forbid something happened, and we had no idea that the trip was really taken. So let's move on, and did you have something else on that policy?
No, not this time. It's good to.
Yes, 2 questions, trustee Jacobson.
Just a typo. I guess technically the third paragraph up from the bottom says such consent forms must include name and then there's a period. Should be a comma.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, well.
Trustee Long?
What is the purpose of informing the board about a field trip? What is the purpose of that? And I guess you answered my second question, that applies to all field trips, all grades. What's the purpose of having, if there is approval at the administrative level, what's the purpose of an additional form of communication to the board?
I mean, I would think just because we're liable, but I don't know legally.
Well, I think it's just so that if an event occurs, you're aware, you have the awareness of where, if kids are going into New York City to a museum and you hear on the radio that there's been an event, you're aware of that event. It's really just notice, not approval.
So are we to track this information somewhere or organize it in some fashion?
You mean like trip letters?
Yes. Like just an email,
Well, it could be an email, I guess.
Well, we would want to know our packet, right?
We should have it in our packet, but it could be an email. I don't know, do we need to track them? It should be, I guess, a slot in our board docs that says school trips. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating a database for that, couldn't hurt.
perhaps there's a database that just says these are all the planned trips across the district for the year, that it's a one-time thing instead of a per
They can do
occasion
that too.
thing.
Yeah, the principals may know that ahead of time, like what trips they usually go on every year too. That's true. Okay. We're going to now come to an end for policy, unless I'm missing something. It's now 7:20 PM and we have budget presentation.
Sorry, if I may, sorry,
Yes.
Ms. Parkinson, if you want to review any of these with student government or anything and provide feedback to us, just email board, and Greenburgh CSD what's about it in a week.
The 11th, yeah.
Trustee Mears, do you want Chestnut Markets to present you with the check?
We totally can do that. Is that, hold on.
I don't know where that is, but if you remember, this year and last year, we wondered where the sign was coming on the Shell station, that if you use this pump, X number of cents would be donated to the Greenburgh Central School District. Well, I received a phone call about 2 months ago from a lady from Chestnut Markets to say, I'm the lady that's giving you the check, we're Chestnut Markets. So these are the guys from Chestnut Markets.
So let's just, I guess, start from the beginning. We've heard, come in, thank you, from various community notaries at a gas station around the corner has a little thing on it that says proceeds go to Greenburgh Central School, or Woodlands High School. I think it's at Woodlands High School, right? Yeah, Woodlands Middle High. And no one seemed to know, no one seemed to know what that meant. Where Woodlands Middle High, was the PTA, we asked the PTA, was it the senior class? No one knew what it was coming from, and then you got an email or phone call.
Correct. So we now have the contact from Chestnut Markets.
No, you showed me.
Oh,
Hey, this
oh,
one,
sorry, sorry.
We were selected by Chestnut Markets. They select a not-for-profit organization, and we were selected to receive this check.
Hi, you wanna go and take a picture? So thank you for selecting Woodlands Middle High School.
What's the best way to do it? You have it? Thank you.
The high school.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And
So
we
thank
can have
you
this,
for
we
selecting
have
us.
this.
Yeah, so on the will check, the email that it will be sent to the email.
Oh, don't take that to the bank?
Oh, no. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that is the beginning of your report.
Yes,
You're right, that was a Scooby-Doo mystery report. Why
the
not?
Scooby-Doo mystery.
Did not figure
And
it
I can't, that was great, that was great. That was really, when we received that email, we were like, aha! What happened? I didn't staple any of them. I'm sorry. That's one. I guess the stapler downstairs doesn't work, Amy. Yep. That's two. I don't even know where to separate it.
And then you can go that way.
Three.
Oh, okay, well, keep going. Okay.
Oh, you have one.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna stop there. Yeah, she's going that way too. They just need 3 years. We're good.
Amy, do you know, are there any paper clips or anything around here for us to, Luke, do you have any paper?
Do you have a stapler or?
Oh. I didn't even notice when I was stapling. It was one of those automatic, I didn't even notice. It goes ka-choom.
No,
That way? Oh, one more?
maybe 3 more,
How many?
3 more.
I need three. I thought we passed them all over. Nope.
One more this way then.
Okay. Okay. So, I'm gonna start this What am I doing now? Oh, no, am I doing this?
No, no, no.
It doesn't work.
I could go.
We're gonna do it from there? All right, go to the next page, please. Okay, so we're gonna start with the tax cap calculation, though we showed this to you the last time, but I always like to start with it so you can remember what we're doing. So we start with this current year, this year's levy, and then we can increase that by the tax-based growth factor, which is the representation of new homes and construction improvements that happened in our district. To this, we then add the payments in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilots, from this school year, and subtract the capital exclusions, which represents the debt service that Greenburgh is liable for. For this school year and next school year, we will only include the Southern Westchester BOCES capital costs that are allocated to all Southern Westchester BOCES districts. We then multiply this by the allowable levy growth factor, which is the Consumer Price Index, also known as the CPI. CPI came in at 4.12%. Therefore, we must use the lesser of 4.12 or 2% in this calculation. As you can see, we're going to use 2%. We then subtract the pilot payments that we expect next year and add the capital exclusions in. When any retirement system, such as ERS and TRS, increases by more than 2%, that difference can be added to the exclusions. ERS next year will increase by more than 2%. Therefore, we've added an amount of $8,174 here. Our tax levy limit before any carryover is $67,709,778, which represents a 3.73% increase. Once we add the available carryover from the previous year, our tax levy limit for a simple majority would be $68,717,554, which would be a 5.28% increase. Next slide. At one of our last board meetings, we were asked to provide a baseline budget to the board. This would be rolling over salaries, employee benefits, equipment, contractual items, supplies and materials, textbooks, transportation, and interfund transfers. Next. We're going to begin with the revenues. We know that the governor's executive proposal gave Greenburgh $6,287,061. There has been no change or movement in state aid. Sales tax, payments in lieu of taxes, tuition, interest earnings, and appropriated fund balance are the next categories that we receive more money from. And then we have other revenues that will come in at $470,000, which represents insurance recoveries, if we have any, refunds of expenses, and Medicaid reimbursement. To balance this budget, we would levy property taxes of $961,112, which would represent a 4.12% increase in taxes, which is what we were charged with at the last board meeting to come within the CPI. So we're showing this here. Therefore, we would collect total revenues of $80,950,278. When you compare this to the 22-23, 22-24 school year, you'll see that we are receiving a lesser amount in state aid, and that is basically due to the change the governor has made in foundation aid. Fund balance has not changed, and other revenues have increased by 13.78%. That is a result of an increase in sales tax revenue that we collect, tuition billing to other districts, and we are receiving a much higher interest rate than we had in the previous year. So that would give us a budget, again, of $80,950,278, which is a 3.74% increase budget to budget. On the expenditure side, we start off with the baseline budget that we were asked to provide, $80,865,316. When looking at the superintendent's wish list, we decided that we definitely would need a middle school teacher, math teacher, and we know that we need to add an additional elementary special education teacher. This would involve 2 teachers and 2 teacher assistants and their salary and benefits, which would equal $389,962. Next year is our year that we will be visited by the International Baccalaureate headquarters for their site visit, and we're estimating that that travel expenses that we are responsible for will be $30,000. Special education expenses will increase approximately $300,000, and the BOCES coasters will increase by 5%. To balance this budget, we reduced the capital interfund transfers from $1.3 million to $750,000. Next. Comparing it to 23-24 budget, you will see that our largest increase is in instruction, which is where it should be. It's all about the curriculum instruction and PPS services for our students. There has been an increase in every other line, including employee benefits, with the large increase in health insurance costs, and the only decrease is in interfund transfers.
So the largest increase is not in curriculum, it's in employee benefits
No,
and pupil
no,
transportation.
can you go back, Luke?
Yeah, sure.
The instruction is increasing 1.7 million, and employee benefits is 1.2 million.
I'm going by percentage change.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
largest percentage.
I'm talking dollar change.
Yeah, largest percentage change of increase.
Percentage is employee benefits,
Employee
correct.
benefits and then in pupil transportation. We had a conversation about transportation during that, policy meeting, that I forgot to bring up some of those questions.
So our,
Sorry, go ahead.
so our interfund transfer to capital, as we've told you before, the technology and security, in the safety and security meetings, we discussed doing upgrades, specifically to get the interior and exterior cameras, all that we need to increase our cameras, which we have found out that we can add audio.
And,
Our cameras are equipped to include audio.
and this is in all buildings, correct?
Correct. Radios that would be outfitted in all buildings, so buildings could speak with one another once we got a repeater on Woodlands Middle High School. And then there are some, I could say swipe card systems, but some of the exterior doors need swipe cards that we don't have, so staff can come in and out.
Okay.
Yeah. So what would the impact to the taxpayers be? At this point, you'll see the comparison of 24-25 to 23-24. The assessments per the town have increased from one year to the next. An example, on a single-family home assessment, a home that was assessed at $607,043, their reassessment would be $636,000, $659,000 for next school year. So per 1,000, they would be paying $636.66. So a sample tax bill for this single-family home would be $9,402.83, or a $527.53 increase. So what is next? We're still waiting on the legislature to make their proposals. They're hearing, a lot of people are flooding them because they don't like the governor's proposal, but we don't have any numbers. Their year ended March 1st, so they're working on a budget. We are reviewing the current retirements, and we need a direction from the board. And just, a reminder that our budget vote is May 21st, 7 to 9 at the Woodlands Middle High School.
Thank you so much, Ms. Raymond. Are there any questions, comments? Trustee Ballard?
The increase in the BOCES COSA, is that because we're adding more things under
No.
that, or is that just baseline?
BOCES increases some of their services every year like a school district does because they are bound by collective bargaining agreements also, just as we are. So they're increasing some of their costs
Okay.
have to go up.
And then as far as the interfund transfer to capital proposals, I don't know what is the venue for getting detail on the budgeted amounts. Would that be technology committee? Would that be?
That's a very good
packet? How can
question.
I
So,
get more information on the details
Ms. Verdina, Mr. Pugliese and I got together and I said to them, could you please, Ms. Verdina, can you please get me costs for what these, let's back up. I said to Mr. Pugliese, get those diagrams that were at that meeting that was at CLPS when they gave those, right? Look at where the cameras they're recommending need to be, where they are now, where the principals think one should be. Because I know in this school, Mr. Smith, and where the extra ones are, we need, or he feels. And then it's inside and outside. We don't have a lot outside.
Okay. Do you wanna?
And then we're getting costs.
So how will the board get that information? Should we do it via committee or the packet? President Mears, how do you want us to?
I think it
Get that.
should definitely be reviewed in fact, I mean, that's. what-
Yes, it will be there and it'll be at the security committee meeting, yes. And I would assume that it'll also be brought to technology because it's cameras.
Yeah, some of the stuff you're talking about is exec session only,
I'm sorry.
so
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when it comes to the full board or to FinFET, we have, you know, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the budget? I did have a couple of questions and comments, and I don't know if Ms. Parkinson wants to chime in on anything that the students might want. I was really, really happy to see on here the repeater on top of Woodlands Middle High School. I think that people have been talking about for internet access for a while, as well as that should help with streaming right from the football field. Correctly? Okay, so that should be helpful.
So if trustee Mears, it'll help definitely with that, but if we got new radios outfitted, Dr. Iverson, your radio could act like a phone. So in an emergency, the repeater would give her the opportunity to be able to call between buildings.
So on the revenue section, you have budget to budget, 3.74. And then, I saw something else here. I was gonna ask about, what was it? On the revenues, on one page, you said the 4.12% is within CPI, and then on the very next page, it talks about 3.74 being budget to budget. Can you explain the difference in those?
Sure. 3.74 is exactly that. All of the revenue this year versus compared to all of the revenues we're estimating next year, what that percentage increase is. The 4.12% is just increase in tax levy and tax levy.
Okay. And you said the BOCES COSA is going up 5%?
Approximately.
Why?
Because they send out what's called an ISR. I can't think of what ISR
Are
is.
we using, let me be more clear, sorry. Are we using different or more COSAs through
No.
BOCES this year?
No, this is just the increase of the cost of the coasters for next year.
Thank you. Transportation. You want to say something?
Well, no, because the BOCES COSA, we got, it's, when we get the information on the interfund transfer,
Then we'll talk about
then we'll talk more about this.
Pupil transportation, so we have a pretty high percentage of pupil transportation, and some of these things we are locked into, such as private local schools, special education. And maybe some of this is legal questioning, so, what am I trying to say? So correct me if I'm wrong, we must bus for private parochial schools. If the parents pay, we must bus 15 miles?
Yes.
Okay. We must bus, right now, we have a perimeter radius. Thank you, Matt. We must bus a mile, students that live in the secondary, middle, high school, up to a mile away from the school, bus walk. We must bus everyone outside of a mile. And elementary was half a mile?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, policy, great. We talked about this during policy. So I had asked to get some information, I don't know if you were able to get that, Dr. I. If we did? No, okay. I asked about getting information if we were to expand that circle. Looking at you, because I feel like you told me that was shut down before.
Then I was waiting.
Yes, it was shut down before when we tried to change how far away it was before we started busing. Yes.
Right, because I was wondering
If
how
the board
much,
was to approve that,
they would, yeah. I'm just wondering how much money we would, because I'm looking at how high the number is, and I'm just
I
wondering.
think, what would your limits be? What, you want the half mile to go to what, 1 mile to go to what?
I don't know, pick really, you could pick a half mile to go to 3/4 or a mile, 1 mile to go to 1.25 or 1.5, I don't know. I just wonder how much savings there would or would not be. I'm wondering how do we address this public transportation transportation issue. I know there's some districts much larger than ours that don't provide any secondary busing, but I think they provide like bus cards or something. Right, for their kids to get to the campus, but we don't have a bus stop on campus. So I'm just wondering if there's any way we can help with that number,
Okay,
or not.
I can talk to Frank.
I'm just, yes.
I will tell you that the other thing you have to worry about is the sidewalks that feed into the
Right.
schools. And if you think that you have a complete set of sidewalks, leading up to, say, Lee F. Jackson,
And you don't.
you don't. Right, so that's an ongoing issue. I mean, bits and pieces of it are getting addressed, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if anyone has any other creative, also, within that radius of space that we bus, is it also true that private school students, if our students have to walk a mile to campus, do private school students have to walk a mile as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
Same.
Mhm. Okay. I don't know how that.
And
Yes.
for to answer your question, trustee Lynch, remember too that bus contracts increased by the CPI set in May. Our vote happens before we know that number, okay? So knowing it's 4.12 now, and the last 2 years, whatever CPI was that we were using, it always went up by 1 or 2 percentage points. So I used a higher percentage than 4.12, because that's what I'm assuming is going to happen.
Thank you, trustee Long.
This is an issue that sticks on top of my mind too, and I think not only of the distance, but perhaps how that distance is counted. And I would use Highview as an example, because there's a lot of families live to the south of Highview, that the only way to get to Highview is to walk out to Central and back over and back up. However, there used to be a little path from those neighborhoods to the school. Perhaps the school could institute that path. Then I think of the whole backside where Alexander is in College Corners. We had a bus pass because we were considered within a half mile of Highview. We're not within a half mile of Highview, and we never took the bus when we went to Highview. So perhaps there again, we could put a sidewalk in accessing Highview. I do not know about the other schools and that possibility, but thinking of how that half mile's counted and our own property, and can we make access that is more convenient? Then they don't need the bus, yes. Yes.
do we want to into costs around maintaining the sidewalks and shoveling them and stuff like that, or is that a different?
I don't know, but we have right now $8 million in transportation costs, and I think there's a lot of students that could easily walk to schools that it counts as a half mile, but it's really not a half mile.
I mean, I don't know if are the buses full, are the buses full from some areas and not others? I mean, and it could be just totally anecdotal, but I know lots of parents drop off. The days that I drop off, I'm like, whoa. So, and I don't know if that increased after
So
COVID.
I
and
can
people
tell you
started
this. Frank has got to provide a seat for every student,
Right.
whether or not they are, so like, I'll tell you, me personally, I drop my child off every day,
Mhm.
but she had to have a seat on that bus.
Right.
So you may see buses that aren't full because of that reason, but we can't.
That's, is that policy or is that?
I
law?
believe that's a law, right, that every student has to have a seat on the bus.
So interesting.
So even if they refuse the bus pass?
Correct. Because there may be a day that that mother, for whatever reason, parents might need to get that kid on the bus, and if everybody's on that bus, now we're overloaded.
So everybody, unless they're within the perimeter that's stated by the
Right,
policy,
yes,
then
change
there's
it.
no seats for
Correct.
those students.
Correct.
So your sidewalk idea works.
And I know before, I'm gonna look at David again, I don't know if, what the conversation was, but there was a conversation about getting a bus stop on campus so that if kids needed to get, do you remember any of that, or what the,
You mean like
like a beeline bus
like
stop?
a beeline bus?
Yeah.
Well,
Bus.
When we were considering opening up the campus, and then there was the same driveway went on through and punched through to Leah Jackson, then the bus would possibly make its way in.
Got it.
And if you don't have that, then you gotta have some kind of big turnaround and, yeah.
Okay,
So it was part of that plan.
thank you. Okay, that was, and that question, I think that was it. Thank you.
So then we just need to know what you want us to do from here.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? No?
I think we should get feedback from the community.
Are you having budget presentation with the community?
I am at FinFact.
Are there any community
This
budget
Thursday.
presentations, like at TURCC, at the, any of that?
Yes, we are developing a schedule.
Thank you.
And are we doing a budget video?
We could.
Can you do a
we could
budget
have-
video?
yeah, we did it last year, yes. We didn't do a budget video though until we knew what the budget was going to be. So I don't know that there'll be anything to present at our next meeting unless there is a budget and state aid changes. But just remember, we only have 2 more board meetings before you have to adopt at the 3rd meeting.
Trustee Jones,
Do you know which, FinTech meeting you're going to present at?
This Thursday.
2 days.
And
At
Yes.
6:30 PM.
do you already have an email address if anyone watching today
Yes,
has questions?
that
And what is
is-
that email address?
That is a budget at greenburgcsd.org.
Okay. Done? Move on. It's now 7:48. Next on our agenda is committee reports. Are there any committee reports for the board this evening? Yes, trustee Ballard?
You heard most of what we did at the last governance and policy committee meeting, and you've already heard that our next meeting is March 11th, probably here in the innovation lab. At, I want to say 4:30. I should have looked this up before I raised my hand. It is at 5 o'clock. March 11th.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Yes.
Wellness Committee has a meeting next week, Wednesday, March 13th at 12:30 PM at Woodlands in the Freelo Center.
Speaking of wellness, So we had found out about, and you were here, did you see the emails that I sent regarding the Department of Health? I think, yes, I did see that. So that is public, correct? Yes. So we did receive, a surprise visit from the Department of Health, several of our schools, and you guys had a meeting. Can you update us on some of that, the public part of it?
On the Department of Health?
Yes,
I can.
the cafeteria foods? Yeah, do you plan to address that in your assistant superintendent reports? or-
I can, yes, they talked about that. Yes,
Did you
I-
plan to?
I
don't
do
know,
have.
I mean, I don't know if the committee, she's doing the committee or the report, what she want me to.
What you want me to do?
It makes
Or you
more
want me to-
sense in your report.
Okay, I'll do it in my
The committee
report.
was informed, but we don't have any.
I have it on my list.
Changes, okay, wonderful. All right, any other committees?
The CC is meeting next week after the district STEAM night event on the 13th. So we'll be meeting in person, and that is at, where's the STEAM night event?
March 13th.
But where is it?
Here.
Oh, okay, yes, so we'll be meeting here after the event next.
At 7:30?
At 7:30.
And to repeat, the Finance and Facilities Committee will be meeting this Thursday, the 7th, at 6:30 PM here in the Innovation Lab, and we'll talk about that.
What's those calendars? Kristen, do you have them?
They're your great
Oh, I
folder.
did. I need to take the calendars out, I'm sorry. Okay. Any other committee reports? We also had the Education and Wellness Committee last week. The next one,
I didn't say anything.
I know, but the next one, people are asking. I mean, I'm asking for people to do the next one.
We don't have that date yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, sorry, let's get this back together. So no other committee meetings? No? Okay. We're gonna move on to board president's report, and I'm gonna keep it short. I'm just gonna congratulate our boys basketball on the regional semifinal win against Burke Catholic last night, which is, I'm so tired. And the next game is scheduled for Saturday, this Saturday, the 10th, is that the 10th? At 3 PM, nope, Saturday the 9th, at 3 PM at Yorktown High School. Hopefully, the community will come out and support the students again. We have community members, we have, graduate members, we have board members at the meeting, we have cheerleaders at the meeting, at the game, we have cheerleaders at the game. It's wonderful, the kids do a great job. So does anyone else have any other announcements, anything they want to add about the students doing well? I did hear there was some music. Okay, that's fine. Gabby, do you want to share anything? I want to give you an opportunity to go if there's something else you want to share.
I don't think that, the only thing is we had our HC breakfast week, assembly last week, and I think that was really informative, it was fun. A lot of kids got engaged, and I think it just, a lot of people learned a lot more about HC than they probably they're gonna learn in like the best of years. So that's just a cool thing that we did last week.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool, I did attend that. And one other thing that happened was, that was a Wednesday, and then on Thursday, they had Black Excellence Day, where a lot of graduates from the high school came back. I met a neurologist, I met a speech language pathologist, there were businessmen here, there were a lot of people that came back to talk about what they do. And they were Woodlands grads, so I think that's really important for the students to see that, high school's like, oh, I just can't wait to get out of here, but really, a lot of the graduates are successful persons as adults and do well in their careers, so it was very, and these were young people as well. It wasn't like someone who graduated many, many years ago, or the neurologist looked like, oh, she had to be 30. I was like, that's great. So it was wonderful.
And that was followed up by a number of the former champions from Woodlands basketball.
Yes.
The guys from UIL came and gave like a pep talk on Thursday before
Mhm.
the kids went. championship.
They won the sectional championship and now they're in the regional sectional semifinalists.
So I do have a question, I guess for our athletic director, if you can find out, I have not been to the gymnasium, but I know a lot of our teams have done a lot of successful things. And when we were at the community college yesterday, you saw the banners. And I'm just wondering, do we have banners for, I know like our soccer team did some great things and our bowling team and our volleyball team and the fencing. So even though we don't, like football and basketball brings out a lot of people, these other sports, I don't know if you could find out, how can they be recognized throughout the school, whether with posters, pictures, acknowledgement, so other kids can get inspired when they see the wonderful things happening.
There was a trophy case, I feel like we talked about that
Well, the
last
trophy
year.
case has been here forever.
About
I don't know if it
updating
has
the
to be
trophy
cleaned
case.
out, or I have no idea.
It's being
So I
built.
can speak on that.
Yes.
Mr. McCoy has been meeting with representatives about rebuilding that trophy case. And to my knowledge, we were waiting on some brackets for some other banners to get put up. And when I was there for the pep rally, I saw them there. I didn't count them specifically, but I can verify which banners are actually up on the walls.
And the second thing is, I know we don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on T-shirts, but if we happen to make it to states, if there's a way that we can think of something, whether we sell them for $5 to make some profit, or, you know, we order them, I don't know if we can do a big turnaround when it comes to that, but it would be really nice if we make it to states, that we have a uniform, when we make it to states, if we had a T-shirt, and I know, you know, there's some things going on about T-shirts, so I'm just wondering, because all this still builds school spirit, and because of the T-shirts that you did do before, I was able to wear like my Falcon T-shirt to the basketball game, so I was very happy with that, since we have no board swag
So
whatsoever.
we talked about that board swag.
So, so it would be, you know, so thank you for the T-shirt, I appreciate it, and just a wondering, when we make it to states.
So I can quickly speak on that. I do know from when we have purchased them in the past, that the turnaround time is about 3 weeks.
Oh,
It's about, so we can, no, I'm not saying it's no, I'm just giving that information, we can certainly look into that as well.
okay.
And maybe they can do it quickly if they have the stamp already, right? A lot of that is doing the
That's the
design.
stamp, because it's a white shirt, right, because white is easy.
Yeah. Right.
It can be real plain.
Yeah. And so trustee Washington threw in the board swag. That's something we should probably look at again, trustee Valen, because I know you're giving me the eye. But go look at the budget
But we
line,
can
but
buy our
go
own
to.
swag, I don't mind buying my own.
I don't mind
Like
buying
we
my own
like we bring
swag.
our own snacks.
But we talked about that, we talked about that a couple of years ago,
Everything has
whether
to be
it's
budgeted.
a hat, whether it's a jacket, whether it's a t-shirt.
Yeah, I saw an old Karen school board member hat.
School
Yeah,
board
you
Put
have
it out
one.
there.
And then when things are bad, we don't wear it because, you know, we need to, you know, we're not gonna get people. Right, but going to these, the games, you know, in the game at the county center, I was handing out the cards, but it is nice to be recognized, identified as a Board of Education member, showing as well the community support that we go to these sort of things as well. You don't have to wear yours. She'll be wearing it all the time. Yes.
I
Trustee Jackson, she's an artist, I know, so she knows how to design things. So, Trustee Valen is reminding me as well, we have our Newsies play coming up.
There you go.
I think Dr. Iverson is definitely gonna talk about that. And so, board members, if you can make it, please, I don't know if we wanna do, we have done in the past, a particular night that we invited the board, sometimes the first night. I know you had the front row last time, Dr. Iverson, for the board members. I don't know if we want to do that again or not.
I had planned on it,
Okay.
I didn't know that was something, when you're always on the front row and invited,
Okay,
reserved for you.
okay, and it's on the
Newsies, every night is Newsies, but it's particularly the first night.
15th, the 16th, and the
And
17th
17th.
of this month. And I think that's all for my announcements. You're gonna move on to the superintendent.
Yes, thank you. I have a few things. Yes, I thank you. You know, we just finished our Black History Month, and yes, we ended on a real high. We had a lot of activities happening in all of our buildings here at the high school. You're so right, the HSBCU assembly and program was very, very nice and well attended. And so we ended the month on a real high, so that was just a great time. And we're still in celebration mode. Trustee Mayes has already talked about the game, so we hope to see everyone there on Saturday. We're so proud of our boys and how they are not only playing well, but how they exemplify such talent and teamwork and work and camaraderie and class on the court. They share, they congratulate one another. They hug throughout the game. I mean, so they've learned some really great, I think, life lessons and skills that will carry them beyond the sport, which is what sports really do. It helps build that kind of character, and our boys are really exemplifying that on the court. They're very good. I'm so proud of them, so great for that. But yes, moving now to theater. We are looking forward to the high school spring musical schedule, as you said, Trustee Maris, 15th, 16th, and 17th, and our show is Newsies. And if anyone who has walked by the auditorium and that entrance there, you can hear and see the students in there. They sound, I don't peek, I'm gonna wait until I see it, but they sound so good, and they are really rehearsing, and it's here late, but they are sounding great. So tickets will be sold for that each night at the door, so you don't have to pre-purchase tickets. You can just get them there at the door. I don't have the price yet. That'll come home in one of my next messages. We did have Senator Shirley Mayer here last week at Woodlands High School. Really nice. Again, she visited Mr. Holland's social studies class, and she was accompanied by the League of Women Voters for their annual voter registration campaign. And she did a very nice spiel in talking to the students about the importance of learning about voting and about really more state issues as they relate to them as students now, and the importance of voting. Because so many students will say now, well, I'm only 16 or I'm only 18, it doesn't impact me. And she was able to show, well, it really does, because a lot of the laws that she works on and passes will impact them when they get to 18 and when they get to college. I'll never forget the law that changed Obamacare to 26, and my daughter called me and said, wow, I can stay on your insurance for 4 more years. So it did impact her, although she, so it does. And I gave that example to the students that you never know how it will impact you. We know Biden is even doing legislation around student loans. So she was able to connect, because they're all about to go to college and looking into student loans, that once they're out in 4 years, some laws could be about to help impact that. So she really made such an impact on them that they were able to register students right there in the class. So it was really nice, and attended 18 students were given opportunity to register and go in that class that day. So that was such an accomplishment. Gabby, were you, you were there, that's right. So did you catch a form? Okay. So we were happy to have that. And, the mayor is a supporter of Greenburgh. I know this is not her district, but I've been on many legislative calls with her and Senator Cousins, and also I'm forgetting the other name that Shinsky. That we talk all the time about the budget cuts. They are very aware about foundation aid across the state, not just to us. That's been cut, and they're advocating on behalf of all districts to get that money back and to get the whole harmless back in place. So nothing, like Lisa said, nothing's happened yet, but they are very aware of the budget cuts. And apparently they came out of nowhere. She just did this, and we weren't told, none of us knew until we got the cuts that we were going to get these cuts. So everyone's upset, but they are advocating on our behalf. So that's all the news I have. I think you have those 4 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson, Trustee Valerie.
Speaking of news, Senator Mayor, is there any invitations going out to our local VIPs, including Assembly Person
For Newsies?
Shinsky, for Newsies?
I can check it out.
And, I'm not going to name, but other VIPs who are interested parties in our district. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, let's move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction.
Good evening, everyone. So a couple of curriculum instruction things I'd like to just remind everyone of, do an update. So we continue to prepare for computer-based testing in grades 5 and 8. So as a reminder, that includes all subject areas that are tested at the state level for grades 5 and 8. So that's ELA and math in grade 5, and ELA math and science in grade 8. We did a test run of our mock testing, and so we did not have any connectivity or bandwidth issues. In preparation for state testing, we will then be conducting speed testing sooner as we approach that deadline. We did receive an additional fleet of new Dell Chromebooks, so thank you for the ability to purchase those, and we will be distributing those in grades 5 and 8 so that those students who are participating in computer-based testing can use the newest devices that we have available. Toward the end of the month, parents of students in Woodlands High School will be receiving notification from Mr. Smith and his team regarding Regents preparation that will be available, so please make sure that you're on the lookout for that and that you take advantage of that additional support for students who are completing or who are going to be sitting for Regents exams in June. I want to thank our friends at Hudson Valley Paws for coming out. It was the first day that they were here. Miss June and her golden retriever, Mary, were here, and they provided some support to the students in some of our special education programs. And so we are all aware of the clinical studies that show the therapeutic benefits of having animals and petting them and being able to just sit with them and hug them. And I saw the students doing some reading with Mary, so that was great. Miss June and Mary will be back on our campus on April 2nd, May 7th, and June 4th. Okay. I also want to give a shout out to the Woodlands Middle High School Science Department for bringing in some guest speakers, in particular some from Regeneron, and most notably we also had a former Woodlands graduate come visit in our ESS class. That's our IB Environmental Systems and Societies class. He is currently an employee at Hudson Valley Fisheries, and he was able to share with our students some of what's going on as far as countries that produce fish, and also the countries that consume the most amount of fish. So nice opportunity for our students to get some real world experience with what it means to impact the environment and consume from the environment. So thank you again to the science team for that. Trustee Thomas did mention, and again, I just want to give another plug for our STEAM night that will take place next week on the 13th from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. here in Woodlands Middle High School. I will be sending out notifications through the Mass Connect system starting tomorrow and then all the way through Tuesday, so that actually all the way through Wednesday, so that our community can become aware of that. We hope you'll come out. We have some nice things planned for all of you, and so we hope to see you there.
Are you doing it twice a day?
I think it's going out once a day, with the exception of maybe Thursday. I think it's gonna start on Wednesday. We'll skip Thursday, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There'll just be, spot checked here and there in case, while somebody's at BJ's or, Trader Joe, and they get the phone call, they might say, oh, hey,
And you have the
friendly
ability
reminder.
to do text.
Because I get my text.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And let
And
me ask you another question. Do board members that do not have children get the text?
so I asked it to be sent out to all users, and I'm assuming that board members are on
Yeah,
that,
no.
so I can check on that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for that. Because I think when people are talking about the phone calls, I think if you do more text and email.
I usually do email, and I'll double check, I'll
I
verify.
know text is just easier. That's all.
Just on STEAM night, or I know for another district-wide event, you needed RSVPs ahead of time. Is this one of those ones that you want?
There's a QR code where you can go on, so when the notices come out, I'm not necessarily, gonna make, some QR, but if you look at the QR code, you can snap it and you can, but those were things for when we were trying to plan to have materials that were
You said
consumable.
it's at night at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock to 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
But again, in the past, when we've done that, it's because we were purchasing consumable things that we didn't want to run out of, and so we don't necessarily have that much of that here,
So people won't be turned away?
No.
Okay.
we never turn people away. We just might not have enough materials for, for the audience.
Okay,
So, and then the last piece is to just kind of piggyback off of the spring musical. We also have our IB spring concert that will be on March 20th at 7 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry, one more funny thing. And I just also wanted to remind the community that we recently had an SEL steering committee this the 15th of February, and so we worked a lot on the curriculum. So as a reminder, we are using Second Step pre-K through 6, and we are using Aperture K through 12, and so we hope to also be able to provide a baseline assessment to our students sometime around end of March. We just had some, we had to customize some rostering pieces so that when students signed on the class link, that they would be able to access Aperture, but we will have students complete a pre-assessment, so to speak, on Aperture, so that we can get an understanding of where they are baseline with their social and emotional learning, so that we can then tailor the curriculum to their needs.
So this one, Aperture, is this the one where the teacher fills out for the student or the
The
student?
student was there.
So what grades? Will it be
All grades.
pre-K to 12? I know pre-K, but
It's
it's
the same.
I said K, but I can clarify pre-K because we also have second step for,
okay.
so, for the pre-K students. So I'll clarify that piece.
And is it SEL week this week? Or is that just the city? Because we're hashtagging SEL, just check to see if it's just a city thing or.
We have not been focused on that, but I can go with
Yeah,
that
let's
on
see
that.
if it is. I think it's Friday. And then the 20th, March 20th is the Day of Happiness. National Day of Happiness.
Okay, Dr. Macaluso, I have a question. Why is that spring concert called the IB Spring Concert? Is it different somehow?
It's the students who are in the IB course, the music course that is associated with International Baccalaureate.
Okay.
Are they having a separate one?
Is it different than, right, that's what
Right.
so it's,
Similar to how we have the separate IB art show as well,
oh.
the separate IB art
I
exhibition.
didn't even get that. Probably because I didn't.
Is she a musician too? Is she just?
She is, but are you into music? No. I get a lot of emails. The long ones I can't get through all the time.
Oh,
Okay,
IB
so-
email?
I just in general, like,
Okay.
I also want to ask you about the, Education and Wellness Committee. So in that committee, Education Committee, sorry, it's not wellness, I'm sorry, it's not joint anymore. In the Education Committee, it came up and, the parents learned that we're doing a new math, possibly a math, possibly an ELA. Oh gosh, I don't know the academic terms you guys use. ELA core curriculum?
No, we just.
I'm gonna mess up
yeah,
the
that's why they
terms.
presented, go ahead, you get to.
So the governor has recently pushed out some research based on the science of reading.
Okay.
And so we've had some opportunity to attend professional development at Southern Westchester BOCES related to some of these initiatives that are coming up from the government. And so we're in the planning process of it, just to kind of take a look at what we have in place and how we can adjust it. So we don't necessarily have a long, in-depth piece that we would present to the public at this time. But the only thing I would say is to just be aware, public, that we are on top of the initiatives that are coming out from the governor's office with respect to auditing our curriculum along the science of reading, and that does include some literacy pieces. So it's captured as the science of reading, but embedded in that is how writing supports reading and language development. And so we'll be looking at all of our whole literacy program to determine where we have strengths and where we might make some adjustments.
And we do have a lot of strengths in the science of reading
We do.
around our curriculum with Wilson, Foundations, Hegarty. So
And the
we're,
writing revolution.
right, so we're in a good place.
Correct.
We just talked about F&Ps.
Right.
The latest research around that, so that's something that has to come out.
So some of the pieces that have been brought to light with respect to FNP is the queuing, and so how students are maybe in using the queuing strategy that they're guessing instead of decoding. So we'll be looking a little bit more at that. And the second piece, skip my mind for a moment, if I recall it, I'll bring it back up.
It
But
said
that's
also
another-
F&Ps are.
And the level, I'm sorry, and using leveled readers.
Right.
So instead of using leveled readers, we should be using decodables more often.
Mhm.
And so we'll be taking a look at that as well.
And also, they also are noticing, well, part of the research is that F&Ps are very biased. So if I, quote unquote, don't care for a student, I might rush them. Or I love this student and everything is just, So they're also looking at that research to see what type of biases come along with that. I think that's part of it.
Okay.
And I did have one more thing, trustee, and then I have one more item that I didn't write down.
So related to education committee, so two things. One, at the last meeting, I thought we kind of pinpointed a date of April 9th. I know you guys needed to discuss and confirm that date, but I don't want to lose that date. if it's still
Well, I have to
technically
talk to
available.
Dr. Macaluso, we didn't
So we can
confirm
put
it.
it as a question mark for April 9th still?
Well, you'll look, right?
Yes.
So what we'll do, you can put it as a question mark, and what we'll do, we'll discuss it, and then we'll give you a definitive date.
So if we're gonna cover this topic at the next meeting, whenever
And
it
date.
is.
MOY.
MOY, yeah.
MOY.
Go, but thinking of literacy and the science grading, and thinking of foundations, and of course, there's also something I've talked about for years and years, and I wanna kind of bring back to this, is I'm not an educator, this one's not gonna come out right, forgive me, but the stickiness, right? When people are not just on their computer, but they're writing their letters or doing their letters in the air like foundations, how it helps it stick into the
Yeah.
brain.
That's
And I do
research
want to
based.
address somewhere, whether it's education committee, technology, a little bit of both, how
The
we're
balance.
doing physical writing versus, and in what ages versus using the computer for these different pieces, at least for the literacy part.
That also
If
helps
not
with
now.
OT and PT too.
Yes.
Right, there's a
So
lot
I'd
of
like to
research
hear
out there
how
about
that kind
handwriting,
of works
cursive.
together and what we actually do at different grade
Absolutely.
levels, please. I don't know where, I'm guessing education, but I thought it kind of
I
went
think
hand in
that's
hand.
You gonna write that down, so you don't forget
Yes,
to.
I have it.
All right, MOY is.
I have it. Actually, Alyssa was working on it today because we're actually getting ready to order snacks and things,
Okay.
and we were doing it. The one piece, I'm sorry, that I did also want to add is, in alignment with the strategic plan, we are also planning in collaboration with the building principals, our academic event for the end of the year, and so we anticipate that will happen on Summer of Fun Night, and that's, I'm hoping Trustee Ballin can pop open your calendar, I saw you had it there. I think it's June 13th, and I don't want to just cross that because I just said 13th for STEAM Night, which is this month. We are planning on having a classroom level, school level, and then it will culminate in a district level Jeopardy game that will
Well, that would
happen
be
at the
fun.
Summer of Fun, and so I won't give too much details out there just yet because we came up with some, I think, pretty cool categories for that. And so it'll be a nice way to go blending the,
So is this for the adults or the children?
so
The students, I'm sorry.
at the school, at the classroom and at the school level, it will, so at the classroom level, it will only be students. And then the class level winners will progress up to a school level competition in which they can bring family members to be on their team. And then as a district level competition, we will have collaborative teams, so I'll give more details about that. And so we'll have collaborative teams that can also bring their family members to that culminating event. Which is again academic. Yes, so it is, yes, so I try not to give too much weight because I think it's kind of amazing that we come up with these cool things here. But yes, it's kind of like a mashup between Jeopardy and Family Feud. Yes, so you got it.
And you are gonna work with.
Sorry, June 11th. June
So,
11th.
thank you for the date. You are gonna work with families on that,
Yes.
not just building principals,
I'm sorry.
on planning the summer event?
Sure.
I forgot what you called it, summer of.
Summer fun.
Fun event. You are gonna pull in somebody that has to do with parent or community and, or students.
We talked
to
about
make
some
this-
strategies that we might use for that, and so those details are a little bit more in the preliminary stages. So Dr. Iverson and I have talked about some ways that we can go ahead and do that, but stay tuned
Yeah,
for
I just
how
wanna
we-
keep reminding us to always try to pull
Stay
in.
tuned for how we would, we're anticipating including those stakeholders.
Awesome, stakeholders, thank you, and I know some students might have some great ideas around things as well. Okay, any other yes, trustee?
I just wanted to draw out really quickly that the Nettie Jackson Award, it's coming around again, and we are gonna need 3 community members to be judges. So if anybody is interested, you can email me
I'll
at,
be a judge.
sorry?
I said I'll be a judge.
From the board.
Board members, yeah.
So you can email me at Jamal@greenburgcsd.org. That's Jamal@greenburgcsd.org, and Jamal is JAMAAL.
It's not you, Jay Thomas, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's right.
I was like, which one did you say? How do you get her first name?
J Thomas at
I had to get off,
greenburgcsd.org.
like, okay, thank you for bringing that up. Yes. Nanny Jackson, okay, we will need volunteers for that. The other thing was, because some parents were concerned about the existing requirement, but new to the district, as we may be reaching the threshold of students that speak the same language in a class, in a cohort. it's a threshold of 20, I think you said.
Correct.
And if we do have English language or new language learners, students that all speak the same language, then we must offer some different things for the students.
So,
So we have a report to give?
I know,
So
but it
you're-
just, that came up, so I don't wanna not
It
mention
came
it.
up when, during
So,
the meeting?
Yes, after the meeting, parents called and asked about, so I just don't want there to be any confusion out there. So what, the reason why I'm bringing it up is there will be a year of planning.
next year.
This is important, this part is
Did
important.
we not record that meeting? Is that what happened?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
recorded.
see, that was a good meeting.
That was a good meeting.
Do you always record them?
Me
I just
too.
said whatever, I actually just said whatever we always do, just do it.
Yeah, no, we
And so-
normally record education meetings.
But there will be a year of planning,
Okay.
that we will be reaching out again to parents and community members, right? To be involved in the planning if interested in any additional supports for students that speak, you know, a language which happens to be Spanish.
It would be a planning year for us to look at how we will be providing bilingual education in the 25-26 school year.
Right, so we have a year of planning, that's all I want to say about it, but you guys in your report should give more detail. But just look forward to any outreach so that you can be involved when that comes your way. Okay, thank you, Dr. Macaluso. Any questions or comments about the curriculum report? Hearing none, we'll move on to Assistant Superintendent for Business report. It's 8:21 p.m.
Okay, we'll start with the treasurer's report for the month of January. We began the month with $29,635,746, deposited $8,311,966, and we dispersed $7,498,474 to have an ending balance of $30,449,236. We have been working on our workplace violence survey, as is required in the guidelines that Dr. Iverson and committee had found. We have that. It's in its final stages. I just have to present it to Dr. Iverson for a final review, and then we will send that out to our staff. The Office of the State Comptroller, we believe, is finished with both of their audits here. We haven't seen our representative for a few weeks now, so we are just now waiting on our reports. Our new internal auditors have asked us for a myriad of information that we have been working on and giving to them, and they are scheduled to come March 18th and 19th of this month to start their audit. Once they complete that audit, then they'll meet with the audit committee, so then the audit committee can give them their deep dive. We put a new burner in at the teacher center. We had a problem this weekend that the sump pump backfired and malfunctioned, and Dennis had to have a new burner and a new circuit board installed, and that is all done and everything is working fine. I've heard from Mike Messina this week. The fire hydrant project and the R.J. Bailey Auditorium project will be going out to bid very soon. And Dennis has been surveying the bathrooms throughout the district to see if there's any that we can start doing some renovations on like we did last year. As far as the Department of Health is concerned, on February 28th, we received a surprise visit from the Department of Health. We receive a visit from them twice a year, and it's always a surprise. They never announce their visit. They came here to the Woodlands Middle High School, and they cited us on 10 findings. Dr. Iverson and I met with the inspector, Rob Campisi. Dr. Macaluso, you were there?
I was there for the initial.
You were there for his initial. He went over all of his findings. He gave us 72 hours to make corrections to the ones that he felt were most critical. Those critical ones involved the problem that we have with mice, and it also involved the temperature of foods, both in the refrigerator and in the warmers in the high school. He said he would be back in 72 hours. He was, and I have a copy of the report for anybody who would like a copy of that. So he came back March 4th, gave us 72 hours. He said he would be back. He came back to visit us and do another inspection, which we were inspecting. And in that time, Dennis and his crew, we have changed the way we clean there. We clean every night, we clean every morning. Before or when the cafeteria staff is there. We have removed all the clutter that he said we really should get rid of because that could be a home for mice if we're not using it. So that same day, Dennis had trucks just loaded up and it was taken to the the mansion dumpster and was thrown away. Over the weekend, Dennis had 2 of the rooms repainted. He cited us on needing more rodent-proof storage containers, which we have provided to Aramark. We have basically done I'd say 95% of what they have asked us to do. Rob was available during the second visit, but then he had to go to another building, and I sat with the inspector while he needed somebody to listen to the report and sign off on it. He was very pleased with what Woodlands, or Greenburgh, has done to remediate our findings. There are some that we haven't done. For example, he says that one of the sinks that we have down there is not the proper size. Dennis immediately called the plumber. What do we need? Where do we get it? How do we get it? That was not something that was going to be done within 72 hours, but it's in the works and we could prove that. We were having, and we are having, problems with our pest management company. When they come here, any of our schools to do an inspection, there is, on a door down there, they have to sign off who the person was, what day they were here, what time they were here. They haven't been doing the sign off. We can prove they were here by the lobby guard system, and he accepted that, but he said he won't accept that in the future. So we need to speak with our pest control company. As far as the follow-up on Aramark, there were still some findings. He did issue a report again and had, for Aramark, had 8 more findings for them. And basically, it deals with the temperature of the food, whether it be in the refrigerator, out of the refrigerator, waiting to go into the oven, that kind of thing. So I was there when Rob finally came back from the other school, and I had said to them that we've got to get this corrected because this isn't acceptable and we're going to keep getting written up for that. So they need to come up with a plan. In the meantime, Dr. Iverson and I are meeting with the district manager, I believe next week, Dr. Iverson. He's actually coming here so that we can talk to him and we can express our concerns. That same day, when he left us, he went to R.J. Bailey and did a surprise inspection there. There were some findings, but they were not red line. There's 2 different findings. Red line is critical, blue line is, hey, listen, we noticed this, you gotta get it done. He blue lined everything that he found, said to me, these are minor, just get them fixed, get it, whatever, we'll be back again, but you're okay. He then went to Jackson. Same thing. I haven't received the report from Jackson. I emailed him again today because I don't know why I'm not getting it. I got all these other reports, but I haven't gotten Jackson. Same thing, they were just blue line violations. One of the main things there, and again, every school has rodent problems, not as bad as here, but then we were cited for droppings that were found in the other schools. He did say though at Jackson that the teachers are using the cafeteria with their own equipment, because I guess there's no other space, or I don't know if there's a teacher's room. We had to remove the teacher's microwave, the teacher's refrigerator, whatever the teachers were using in there, that had to be removed because it is not our cafeteria equipment, and it had to go somewhere else. So that was like the biggest thing, but that was able to be remedied immediately while he was still there. So, he will be back again.
He hasn't done a high view.
Not yet, he hasn't done high view. He will be back, when did he tell me he's coming back? Next week.
So,
I told you the 11th, okay, it's coming back the 11th.
so, the wellness committee, does have students or one student, what's your makeup? So maybe we need to get some more students involved. I don't know if the student interacts with Woodlands.
Yes.
And do our students at Woodlands know any of this?
Armina does, our representative, and I didn't put in my report, I forgot that I was contacted by the Builders Club, Middle School Builders Club. They asked to meet with me, to give me a presentation, and that presentation was on the cafeteria. So they were spot on, and I told them that that's something we've talked about at the Wellness Committee. If you send me your PowerPoint, I will get it to the Wellness Committee, but those might be a club that we might want to, and that's middle school. Arnita's from the high school, we might want to involve those three young ladies.
And maybe they can help with spot checking temperatures, you know.
They can't do that
No,
because they have to have a special temperature reader.
We can't have an adult with them and be a part of that group?
I
Okay,
can't let them behind the line, I don't think,
Got
for
it.
liability reasons, but,
that's fine, but, yeah. not
so,
acceptable.
we're working on it, and I'm on Rob constantly, that we need to get this needs to get corrected.
Any other trustees have concerns, questions?
And I have a report of all three, if anybody would like a copy. You're more than welcome to have it.
Trustee
Do you want a copy?
I
Do you have a
do want a
question? You want both?
copy. I want both, yes. My question has a hearing date been set for Aramark?
We don't know.
You don't know?
Those info, yeah.
We didn't, I'm sorry, Aramark, the first visit, Aramark got a ticket. They need to appear before the Department of Health at a hearing.
So I forwarded an email to you guys asking what our responsibility is in that at all.
I don't
but
think,
no.
according to the inspector, we have no responsibility to be there. He said we do not have to, we can if we want, but it's not required. Aramark is required to be there, they do not have a choice.
Mhm. That's why I did, yeah, I'm sure Gabby has that information. Okay,
So I just have a question, in reference to the pest, right? You said you're having an issue with the pest company?
not signing.
Not signing the law that was here.
So I guess my question, because we were cited and all these, things happen now, they're doing everything, what is the next steps? Who's gonna be monitoring? Who's gonna be walking in the cafeteria? Because every day I walk in my cafeteria, every single day. So who's responsible to walk through, to talk to people, to make sure things aren't gonna get back to where it was? Because it's evident that there was no monitoring of anything.
It's my understanding from the Wellness Committee and what we figured out, the principals are supposed to be in their cafeteria and kitchens daily to see what's going on.
So then what's the plan?
Yes, so principals are going to, I met with every principal. We've had a meeting with everyone and to go over all of this in their my expectation of what their role is to do in terms of roaming around and being visible in these cafeterias and checking on a regular basis as part of this.
Checking the temperature of the food.
No, not that,
No, just
no.
checking the
It's different.
Just
When's
making sure,
February
because right now we
28th
have
inspection?
custodians increased, we have one on the board agenda who we're gonna be hiring to help with this, correct?
Custodian.
Custodian.
Yes.
So he will be able to help with the morning and afternoon check on custodians. So they're gonna clean, we got rid of all the clutter, they cleaned all those areas, and they're gonna, so the principals will be checking that every day to see that there's no droppings on cans, because that's one of the things, just kind of checking behind. We also, with Rob, put him on a schedule to, he had not been visiting other schools. So, he weekly is visiting schools, checking on his staff to ensure that they're clean, because the staff as well, Mark should be doing some of this cleaning every day. They just weren't doing this mopping and cleaning up and all. They just were lax. There's no other way to put it. They weren't, and he wasn't monitoring that. So he was placed on notice about his responsibility, that we expect that he monitors his people on a regular basis. So was he at a school today? Or was he outside of the district? So he's already started that, because I got a call from Simone, he was over there. So he knows now he's on notice.
Okay. Yes.
I just want to add, the Wellness Committee's next big project is also developing an auditing tool that can be used across the schools that would provide us a vehicle to make it easier to know what to check and how to check. And it could increase the number of individuals that could participate in that process also, yes.
Any other questions, concerns, comments from Ms. Raymond? I did have
Well, I just wanted, okay, so the pest, so they just didn't sign the log, but they're coming.
Yes. They come monthly. We want
So
them
the
to
other
come
thing is,
weekly.
What
And
about
we
the
are
food
also-
in the classrooms?
We are also looking into possibly contracting maybe with a different pesticide company if they're not cooperating. We've spoken to Mr. Smith. I have watched them, Gabby, or Gabrielle, you could probably attest to this. You cannot bring food out of the cafeteria. No food in the auditorium. And I've asked him to please send something out to the teachers that there should be no food in the classroom. And if there is, you need one of those airtight boxes.
So I do think what Ms. Washington is bringing up is very important, in that even having like a school-wide, since it's more of a crisis here, but maybe even a district-wide, like awareness, what do you call those things? Like a awareness week on pest reduction. You know, we're woodlands, we're out in the woods, so there's gonna be pests, you know, that's what happens, but how do we keep it down, and how do we all commit to keeping it down, and the importance of that? If you're hungry, kids will take a donut or whatever to the classroom, and I get that, but how do we have like a drive to keep things down, or something, so that we're more.
But then I think it's
Be aware
called,
of.
just informing people too. Because if you don't if you're not transparent and letting your staff know what was found. I mean, yeah, it's not the best thing in the world, but at least they can have a little bit more onus on themselves on eating in the classroom, and then so when he sends out a message, they understand where it's coming from. So I don't know if there's any thought about having us talk to the teachers, the staff.
I'll speak to
Yeah, it's on the agenda to speak to all the principals at our monthly meeting again.
which is next.
But this might be like an emergency. I mean, this is pretty disgusting.
Well,
So,
Mrs.
I mean,
Smith
it's
is
a
on top
monthly
of it.
meeting, but an emergency meeting. Let's get together now.
Well, I met with every principal
Mhm.
and individually went over this with them. So they did get a call in the meeting from me, and they all know and are aware. Mrs. Smith, I know, is regularly in the cafeteria checking. He's the one who brings the concerns to us all the time about the air mark. So he walks through there daily before this happened. He's on them constantly, and he's also he's always complained to us about earmarking, not being pleased with the service, the food, the preparation, so he's on it, and so, but it's the hardest thing to get a handle on the food. I see students walking out of the CAF all the time here and say, go back in the CAF, you're not supposed to be out of the cafeteria. We were at an assembly this week, the honors program last week, and sitting behind me, it was early, 8 o'clock, first thing in the morning. There was a student eating her bagel right in the cafeteria, dipping it in some sauce.
In the
In an auditorium, and I said, you have to take this out. I see refrigerators and microwaves in classrooms. Jackson doesn't have a facility for a lounge. Their contract does say teachers are to have a student lounge, teacher lounge. That's why wrongly, the microwave and refrigerator that they use for their lunch every day isn't it. So we have some bigger things we need to work on. Ms. Simone and I have talked about that and how she's very compliant. That's been taken out. So the principals have started. They're on top of it, but, and teachers are aware of this, so they're enforcing it, but we're getting, there's some pushback from, that we need to work on to ensure that they have a place to eat and that they can, warm their food, but we'll work on those things,
Okay. Did you have your hand up? It's looking like you were thinking. Okay. I did want to bring up, you mentioned the RG Bailey Auditorium is going to be going to bid soon. I don't know what that looks like on timeline. I was just asked the other day by a parent about it when I was at Bailey. Woods Auditorium, I was like.
I know that they're writing something up, it'll go to Carol. Once Carol is okay with it, then Maureen will get it out, and it will probably stay out a month.
With that said, we have some very talented students doing a school play, so it will probably not be done in the auditorium or started on by the time the school play goes on. And I understand it is happening in the gym again. And I'm wondering why we don't bring the kids here to perform on stage.
If Ms. Rossi wants to bring it here, she simply has to put in a request and put it here.
Yeah, I'm not asking why Ms. Roxy doesn't do that. I'm asking why this is a school underneath our supervision. We have an auditorium that's been closed for many, many, many years now. We have students that are studying, performance or music or whatever, and they're not getting an opportunity to perform on a stage. So I'm asking, why don't we do that?
And it's not been something we selected to do. I can talk to, they seem very happy.
Well, they probably don't even know it's an option. I mean, do you think students would enjoy being on a stage or have the opportunity?
I don't think they not enjoy doing it in their gym, from what I can see. So, and according to Ms. Rossi and her staff and the students, they seem very pleased with that. I think it's an option, something I can definitely talk to her about, but I've not heard that concern from anyone.
Because they don't know what they don't know. I mean, it's not, if you don't know if this is where you're doing it, you don't know that you have that option. I think students,
We can do that, we can check into it.
yeah, we have an awesome stage. I mean, from the graduation. So, why not? We have another location. But okay, I just wanted to bring
See if
that up.
that's something they are interested in doing.
So it looks like maybe this summer the RG Building will turn?
Yeah,
Can we work
I would say yes.
And then is it gonna, how long is it gonna take?
I don't know, I have to ask the
We
architect.
started as an emergency, so,
Trustee
for
Alon?
the public, that's how long it was to take.
What's included in the bid? Just the seating, the carpeting,
No, it's the whole
The
Magilla.
roof, right?
the roof?
You gotta do the
He
roof so it
said-
doesn't leak on the new material.
I'm thinking that Fred will talk about it at the
In
FinFAC
that meeting on
committee
Thursday.
on Thursday, but the way it sounded to me, it was the interior. So I think we need to talk to him.
And lastly but not least, I've been asked multiple times about our vestibule here. Timeline.
So an issue has developed with one of the diagrams of the vestibule that is being investigated right now. Dr. Iverson and I and Mr. Pugliese and Mr. Messina, Mr. Smith have all been on Google Meet. Mr. Seba was out of, he was on vacation. He has come back. Mr. Messina is going out, so Mr. Seba will be talking about it at the FinFac meeting to discuss what the concerns of the district are and how we're going to rectify it. It all has to do with the doors and how they open going outside of the building.
How long is this gonna delay the vestibule? Because I'm concerned about the students and staff that actually work here, including yourself, coming in and out and having the security that's supposed to be, that's been done in every other building for years now.
I think that once this is settled and something is agreed upon,
How the doors open, that's what's taking.
and then
The
because
pillars are in the way.
the pillars are in the way.
And it's creating some kind of an imbalance. You can see it on the drawings. It looks uneven. It doesn't, they're not even like, and Mr. Smith caught it and raised it to us and said, something's wrong with this drawing. This is not what was years ago agreed upon, 4 years ago. And that,
Unfortunately,
he has an email that said,
because unfortunately,
That's not
when the
what we agreed
4 options were presented, it was Dr. Chase, Mr. Falcone, Jim Wadig, who was from BBS, was our architect who passed away. Who else was on there? Oh, Mary O'Neill, and Matt Smith. Matt Smith is the only one still here, okay? So I said to him, they are searching Jim Wadig's emails, and I asked Mr.
Do you have a
Smith
copy of it?
to search his emails, and Mr. Smith did find what we were looking for. So we have that for the FinFac meeting. We asked Mr. Smith to either come to the meeting or be available on Zoom so that he can voice or what he remembers from that, those meetings.
No, if there's an email indicating the way the doors are supposed to open, or so why are we not just moving forward with what was in that email? Why are we now?
because the new guy, Messina, said they don't have it. They don't have any knowledge of that.
They can't find
They
it,
can't
so
find
we
it.
had to send it
So
to
we have
them.
a meeting for them to find, so we send it to
No,
them.
we sent it to them, but now it's an issue that has to be settled. Because that's not what was sent to the fabricator. So I'm
we have
sure
started the
Carol,
project and moved the
or
kids
not
all around, come
Carol
outside
or
of the
your
building.
Chris will be involved.
Chris Batter.
Batter, yes, Chris Batter, I'm sure he will be involved.
Okay, I'll get angry about that later. Because this is all,
Yes, we're all.
Yep.
this is
upset by this.
It's all true.
This was something missed.
Trustee Valen. You'll be angry about it later too, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm angry now.
Okay. I don't just, I mean, every single building has been done, like why?
Well, I did say stop until this meeting, because they were gonna proceed with doing it wrong, or doing it according to what they felt they had, and when he produced this email, I thought, well, it should go to FinFac, we need to let Trustee Warner know it, and they need to decide what's next. I did say stop for right now until the FinFac meeting.
I don't want the FinFac meeting to turn into developing a fifth
I know,
plan
but
either,
no, I
a
know.
door opening. Like
There's
they
no
need-
time for that because for lack of a better word, you might know it, the shelf, the storefront is done.
It's done, that part.
We need to,
No,
but we
that
need to
part's done.
figure out who's gonna pay for the corrections. I think that BBF, I don't know, but it needs to, how is this gonna fit?
No, it's good.
I'm asking, I'm not saying it is, I'm
Well,
asking.
You're asking
Is
what?
this an exec session discussion right now, or is it entering that territory? Just before we proceed,
Yes, it should move into it.
so.
All right, well, listen, I have a public question to ask. What did New York State approve? That's my question. New York State had to approve this whole thing. Did they approve the current wrong issue with the pillars, or did they approve the correct?
BBS has that, all that
They would have
documentation?
approved what PBS sent them.
When? When Waydig was alive?
He was alive.
So then,
Was it live?
Jim, you're waiting.
The attorney, the
Oh,
architect that passed away.
Trustee Washington.
So, in reference to, because you used the word wrong, you said that part is done, right, the
The
outside?
storefront is already made.
So can you explain what is wrong?
The doors, when they open, will hit the pillar. You will not be able to use one of the doors.
So, okay, thank you for that.
So, yes, I'll just leave
And
it
it
at
needs
that.
to move over.
I will say more.
Which then costs money.
Great question, so when will it be finished? They have to have this whole conversation.
You have to agree upon what the change is and then figure out how long it'll take and how much it'll
Not
cost.
before you graduate,
And we can't decide that tonight because we don't have the information. Right.
not by graduation.
No.
No. Yes.
A little just thing, and please take this with a grain of salt, because it's probably not big Jasmine for any grain things. Because kids have to go out through other doors, I don't know if you know, we do have to close the senior store, and that does account for a lot of senior funding. I'm just saying, like, we don't open it anymore because kids don't go through that way, because the doors, obviously don't open. I'm just saying, so it's like, next year, if it's a still issue, it might bite into juniors class funding, because that does kind of help for a lot of our money.
So they have a senior store. What used to happen is everyone used to go out, pick up a snack, go home, and pay money, which would pay for the funding for the senior class, to offset their costs. It's right here. But now all the kids exit through other doors because that front entrance is shut down, pretty much.
So then you don't notice, you don't walk past it, so then the sales are down.
They're all getting the buses that way. They're all getting the
So then
buses.
why can't the advisors do
They
something
have
over
to-
there,
they have
like
to
when we do
move
basketball games and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
they have to completely move this one.
They could just bring some stuff sometimes.
Could the senior store do the T-shirts for the basketball?
No, she's gonna do it.
Oh, I said for the boards. Make it like 300 shirts.
That would be a nice fundraiser for them.
Okay. I don't even know where we were, other than public comment. Is there anything else with this
You gotta find somebody that will mass produce it.
assistant superintendent for business?
No.
No other questions?
I think that's-
Next is public comment. The time is 8:51. Do we have any public commenters? No. Can I get 8:52 PM? Can I get a motion for exec session, please?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations, the employment history of particular persons, personnel matters and or employee records, and matters deemed confidential by state or federal law, including seeking advice from counsel.
Second. It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're in exec session, 8:52 PM. We're going to live